Aloha everyone, Ronnie Landis here, and I felt compelled to share a transmission of insight with you. I want to talk about the nature of transformation and your awakening to the nature of transformation. One of the themes that I guide my reality by, I guide my life by, how I orchestrate the narrative that's running my life. That's actually a really good point, is that our life, our reality, the way that we're filtering our outside circumstances and internalizing it, associating our circumstances to us as an individual is based on the narrative that we have about ourselves, the narrative that we have about our life, our place on the planet, our relationships, our diet, our lifestyle, whatever you want to manufacture as a definition. It's essentially about a narrative. It's a dialogue that is going on all the time, and it's mostly a subconscious dialogue. And so there are seeds that become planted or become imprinted into your psychology. And these, they could be weeds, they could be seeds of negativity that grow out of control because you simply did not catch them in time to pluck those weeds from the root. And then they grow out of control, and then if we are on a transformation path, we have to go back, we have to reverse engineer our life and go backwards to trace the root of the spoiled fruit, if you will, and pull those things out and then replant them with more empowering seeds that are going to create a positive transformation for the future. That's a very nice metaphorical way to kind of outline this idea. It gets much deeper though. One of the themes that I want to arise within your conscious awareness is it's all about alchemy. It's all about transformation. It's all about taking the experiences that have accrued in your life up to this point and deciphering between what is useful and what is no longer useful, and actually releasing the lead, the heavy, dense, unusable energies and memory patterns and associations to a past memory or trauma or wound or whatever, a story that we have, to cut it off, to release it, to heal it, and finally move on. Not to pick the scab of our wounds over and over, to keep replaying the old stories, the old model of reality, all that kind of thing that is perpetually going on within the human consciousness. And even people that are really, self-aware and they're focused and they are on a spiritual path, I often see people get caught up in the old storyline, and it infringes upon their ability to ultimately express their avatar-like characteristics, their higher faculties for genius, for mental acuity, for discernment between what works and what no longer works. So anyways, taking what is useful of your life past and then using that as fuel, using it as content to create something new. This is such an incredible concept for all of us to integrate into who we are and who we're becoming, because essentially we are always becoming a new edition of ourselves. We're always remodeling the old, and it's based on our thought process. It's based on our emotional intelligence, our EQ, emotional intelligence. It's based on the associative factors, our suggestive environment. For example, you can see right back here, I have a short lineup of books. Those books are immediately suggesting things to me, even if I don't read them. I could look at a title of a book like The Autobiography of a Yogi and get an insight out of that, get a state of mindfulness from that. I could look and see power versus force and be reminded of that dynamic of like, oh wow, am I pushing against life? Am I exerting power, or am I just exerting force? Am I trying to force something? You see what I mean? These things mature over time within you, and then one day you look in the mirror and you realize you are unrecognizable to the previous version of yourself. And once you get that insight, once you get that aha moment, that realization, you are forever changed. And you are now embarking on a path of transformation that no longer requires intense willpower. It no longer requires you to intensely focus on changing something, because from within you have been shifted into something. Therefore, the new person that you are and becoming naturally will attract the right people. You'll naturally attract the right opportunities that you're capable of maximizing at any given point. Remember that God gives you only what you can handle in any given moment. Therefore, instead of thinking that we need more open doors, we need more opportunities, change that and focus on what is available right now that you're not taking advantage of. The opportunities in the small things in your life that you're not maximizing right now. And once you do that, you increase your level of conscious awareness and you become essentially a better person, because then you start to notice the little hiccups in your life, the little relationship disputes, the little health things going on. That brings the awareness up to the surface, and now you have a prime opportunity to take action on improving those things so your habits actually line up with that which you say you want to become. Once those two worlds converge, then you become your greatest expression in the world. One other thing I want to point out about this, and that I've really been focusing in on lately, is that as we go through accruing or increasing our skill sets, maybe for a profession or a passion or something, maybe for a job or your career or something like that, as we go into information overload and we try to decipher what makes sense for me in the moment, remember that true transformation in anything requires an advancement beyond superficiality. Let me unpack that really quickly. Superficiality is what our world, the conversations, the dialogues, the agreements that form our actual worldview is based on. Every single marketing campaign is used as a vehicle to essentially pick at people's self-esteem, to pick at their confidence. This is obviously the corporate-based marketing, but nonetheless, it's something. It's used to fill in a gap of the individual. Therefore, they consume something outside of themselves to fix something that's really incongruent within themselves. So the point I want to make here is that in order to transform your health, great example, as I work with more people in the field of cancer and various forms of disease and debilitation and even psychological imbalances, depression, chemical imbalances, all this kind of thing, as I create strategies for people that are very effective and proven, I'm also guided to explore with these people what is the root that is causing the physical manifestation and proliferation of said issue, said physical dysfunction. There's always a metaphysiological condition behind the scenes. So we have to explore that. And ultimately, in order to simplify this whole concept for all of you, there has to be a spiritual insight that occurs at some point in this journey. As you're changing your diet and you're going from this thing to that thing and whatever, there has to be an adoption of a spiritual perspective and a visceral feeling inside of you that nudges you in the right direction. That may sound kind of pie in the sky or esoteric or something like that. Really what it is, it's a feeling that you get. It's like an intuitive navigational system that leads you from signpost to signpost in the direction of your authentic path. No two people have the same path. They may parallel for a short period of time, and then they split up and go into their own direction. And so it's going to be a unique path for you, but the way that you navigate that path is based on the signals that you get, in your heart, you get in your body. For example, people are confused about nutritional things. Well, if you're confused about something, go to the store, pick it up, close your eyes for a second, or just be present with it, and then feel, is this good for me right now? Is this appropriate for my constitution, for my body? Does this feel good? Really good way to get sovereign and liberate yourself from all the jargon and minutia of information overload that we are bombarded with. That's one basic idea. You can evolve this concept into every area of your life. Before you make a drastic decision, or before you just mindlessly go into the behaviors of the day, sit for a second and just think, why am I doing this? Does this feel good? Is this the right thing to do for me? Is this going to help me get to where I want to be? And receive a spiritual insight about that. Spiritual encounter, I like to say. And so there's a lot of different areas that this can trickle into, but I feel compelled to kind of close it off with that. The transformation process is an alchemy of who you have been, who you are, and who you are evolving into, who you are transcending into, where you leave the dense, heavy energy of what has been, and you substitute all that for who you can become. The best way for me to conclude this is one of my favorite quotes, which is the definition of sacrifice. Sacrifice essentially is substituting something of a lower nature for something of a higher nature. Exchanging out who you've been for who you can become. Peace and blessings. Aloha.